تفضل.
الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So let's do a quick review before we start the next chapter. We ended last week with general rules that govern our interaction with peaceful non-Muslims and non-Muslim family members. So general rules that govern our interaction with peaceful non-Muslims and non-Muslim relatives. Non-Muslim relatives, family members, same thing. So who can give me one of those rules? One of the rules we took from last week. One rule from the rules that we talked about that govern our interaction with peaceful non-Muslims. Last thing we did, took about 6 of them, I think, 6 or 7. I'm going to add one.
No compromise.
Huh?
No compromise.
Okay, no compromise. What do you mean by no compromise? Yeah, but we talked specifically about when we interact with non-Muslims. We said this, since we're talking about this whole concept, we were talking about the concept of al-wala wal-bara. We said there's some important points we need to discuss to give ourselves clarity because many people go to extremes. Remember that? And we gave 6, we closed with it, yeah.
We got it.
Oh, I don't hear anything though.
Okay.
Give me one. Who's got one?
None will be a believer until we love.
No. That's different. We're talking about interaction with peaceful non-Muslims and non-Muslim relatives. When I give you guys these headings, you should put the headings in your notes. Just don't write a bunch of words and then you don't have it, and you're just going through it.
Is one tolerance?
Tolerance, not bad, but be more specific. That's good. That's a good guess. That's a pretty good guess. Tafadhal, Habibullah.
Love and hate in moderation.
Ahsan. So one of them was that we have to love and hate the non-believers in what? Moderation. You have to love and hate in moderation. And we mentioned the hadith of Ali in which he said, أحبب حبيبك هونا ما عسى أن يكون بغيضك يوما ما وأبغض بغيضك هونا ما عسى أن يكون حبيبك يوما ما. And basically he said, love the one you love in moderation. Because there may come a day where you have to hate them. And hate the one you hate in moderation, because there may come a day we have to love them. So that's good. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Habibullah. So now that'll jumpstart everybody else. Now everybody they'll know what I'm talking about, and they'll be able to nantalaq. We'll be able to get through this. Tafadhal, Sheikh.
How are you supposed to, like, let's say it's a non-Muslim and it's in your family, you're supposed to hate them, like, in your religion, but you love them at the same time, so it's supposed to supersede each other?
Ahsan. So basically, we're allowed to love our non-Muslim relatives. A natural love. There's no harm. There's no contradiction between that. No contradiction between that and wala wal bara. And the proof is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Prophet, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You can't guide the ones you love. And he was referring specifically to who? Abi Talib. Right? Okay, so that's good. Alright, another one. Yeah.
We don't love the disbelievers and hate Muslims.
Okay, that's good, but specifically, because we did mention that last week, but specifically we're talking about now, here we are in a non-Muslim country surrounded by non-Muslim. What are the rules that govern our interactions with them? That's what we're talking about specifically. We gave like 6 or 7 at the end. It was the last thing we finished with. Ahsan, that hatred doesn't authorize hating them. Hating them naturally, or religiously, doesn't authorize you to oppress them. That oppression is haram for both non-Muslims and Muslims. As Allah says in the Qudsi hadith, He said, "Ya ibadi inni haramtu dhulma ala nafsi wa haramtu wa ja'altuhu haraman bainakum." طيب وجعلته بينكم محرما فلا تظالموا. Right? I have prohibited oppression for myself and I have made it prohibited for you. So do not oppress each other. This applies to who both? Muslims and non-Muslims. Okay, so that's 3. What else? Don't be shy. If you know the answer, say the answer. تفضل يا شيخ.
You don't kill them without just reason.
That's the same as what the brother said. That's included in a dhulm. That if you kill them unjustly, like some people do when they call it jihad, then that will be what? That'll be dhulm. Okay. تفضل.
To love, even though your Muslim sister or brother might do something that you dislike, you still have to love them spiritually for the sake of Allah. And even though a non-Muslim might do something good, you still have to hate them spiritually for the sake of Allah.
That's good, but that was from the talk in general, but not from what we're talking about. You guys have to focus in on the specific thing that we're addressing. Specifically, we're talking about here we are, and we have to deal with non-Muslims every day, all day. So now what are the rules and regulations that govern our interactions with them? So one thing, we can't oppress them. Another thing, if there are relatives, it's okay to what? Love them. Don't feel there's any contradiction between that and wala wal bara. Another one is that we have to hate them in moderation. Right? We have to hate them in moderation. We can't go to extremes in our hatred for them. What else?
We can't imitate them?
Ahsanti, yes! Yes! That we can't imitate them in things which are specific to them. And we give examples. Like, for example, they wear what? Cross. Muslim can't wear what? Cross. Because that cross is a symbol for them, something by which they recognize. A person sees somebody wearing a cross, they immediately say he's a Christian. Okay, they have certain headgear that they wear, right? Muslim can't wear that headgear because that headgear is something that's connected with Judaism. Somebody sees somebody wearing that hat, they say he's a Jew. They have certain hairstyles, right, that they have. That somebody sees somebody with that hairstyle, they say he's a Jew. So we can't imitate them in something which is specific to them. And the proof of that is the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, which the Prophet said, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum." Whoever resembles a people, imitates a people, then he's from them. And we misquoted Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah, he said, أقل ما في هذا الحديث تحريم التشبه بهم. The least of what this hadith contains is the prohibition to what? To imitate them. وإن كان ظاهره كفر من تشبه وتكفير من تشبه بهم. He said, although what's apparent from the hadith is that the one who imitated them became a disbeliever. And we're talking about things which are specific to them. Okay, so that's good job. Thank you. All right, let's finish it. What else? What else did we say last week? About the rules that govern our interactions with them. تفضل يا شيخ.
Don't annoy them.
Don't annoy them? Well, I guess that's good. That's not bad. If they're your neighbors, you can't annoy them. And the Prophet talked about that. That's good. That's not one of the ones we mentioned, but I'm thank you. I'm going to have to add that to my notes. I appreciate you saying that. All right, what else? What else?
Not participating in their holidays.
Ahsanti. Another one we said was you can't participate in their holidays. We can't participate in their holidays. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَشْهَدُونَ الزُّورِ. And those, describing Ibad al-Rahman, he says they are those who do not what? They do not witness falsehood. They do not witness falsehood. And the early scholars of tafsir, like Mujahid and others, they said it refers to what? A'yad al-mushrikeen. It refers to the holidays of what? Of the disbelievers. It refers to holidays. Now think about this. If they don't witness it, what do you mean witness? They would go and what? Watch and see what they do. Allah says, لَا يَشْهَدُونَ الزُّورَ. They won't even do this. If they won't watch it, they certainly won't participate in it. You guys got it? By Mumtaz. Alright, what else is left? What else is left?
Don't worship how they worship.
Don't worship how they worship. Not bad. I'm about to add these to my notes, man. Good job. Good job. Huh?
I thought that was one of the...
Not one of the ones we mentioned, not last week. Alright, so we got do not oppress them. And we got hate them in moderation. Can't imitate them. Can't practice their holidays. What else did we say? Yes.
Neighbor?
Huh?
Be nice to your neighbor.
Well, okay, treat them kindly. That's not bad. Treat them kindly. All right, and we talked about that. That's good. Now we talked about treating them what? Kindly. Whether they're your neighbor or they're not, your neighbor. And we mentioned the ayah in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا ينهاكم الله الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم إن الله يحب المقسطين. So based on this ayah, Allah is saying that Allah doesn't prohibit you from those who are not fighting you. They don't cast you out of your homes. They don't basically turn you into refugees. If they don't do that to you, then we don't prohibit you. In fact, we encourage you to what? To treat them kindly. And there's a great benefit in that. Okay, so we're almost done. There's about 2 or 3 left. Huh? Do I have to start calling people's names? I hate to do that, man. I really hate to do that. Can we finish this? طيب. We said that our hatred for them has to be coupled with what?
Moderation.
Has to be coupled. When we talk about moderation, but after moderation, when we hate them, that hatred has to be coupled with something.
Shafaqa.
Ahsant. It has to be concerned with what? Pity and compassion. We have to feel sorry for them. That they're what? Non-believers. And the proof for that is the Prophet himself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about him, فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِرٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ إِن لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَسَفًا. It's as if you're going to worry yourself to death. Out of grief, because they won't what? They won't believe. So the Prophet, even though he hated their disbelief, he felt sorry for them. He felt pity for them that they weren't what? That they weren't believers, and they might die upon what? Upon disbelief. So we hate them for their disbelief, but we also what? We have pity for them. We have compassion for them. All right. Also, we're not supposed to initiate what?
Salam.
Initiate the salams. We don't initiate the salams with what? With the non-believers. As the Prophet said, he said, لا تبدأوا اليهود والنصارى بالسلام. He says, don't initiate the salam with the Yahud or the Jews and the Christians. We're not the first to what? Give the salams. Okay, so those were the ones. Let's just recap really quickly. What was the first one? First one is hate and love and moderation. Your hate has to be accompanied with what? Pity. You also you should do what? Invite them to what? Islam. Invite them. If you feel sorry for them, do what? Invite them. Okay, just don't leave them in darkness. Invite them to Islam. Do not oppress them. We said, do not oppress them. Don't oppress them. The next one, do not initiate the salams. Don't celebrate their holidays. Treat them kindly. Ahsan. We didn't say that. Don't imitate them. And then last but not least, do we say don't participate in their holidays? Huh? What is it?
Imitate them.
Don't imitate them. Okay. Now I'm going to add one that we didn't mention last week. Forgot to mention last week. And that is that we need to limit our interactions with them to that which is necessary. Limit your interactions with them to that which is necessary. Follow the Sheikh, huh?
Last time didn't we do the we shouldn't be friends with the God?
Yeah, we talked about a lot of things, but I just wanted to focus on this one last point, last list of things. So yeah, you're right. We did talk about that those two words shouldn't be in the same sentence, right? But now here I want to add a point to this list of things that govern our interaction. And that is that we should not, or we should limit our interactions with them, to that which is necessary. And that we shouldn't basically, be in their company more than we need to. And only when we are pretty sure that the benefit of being in their company will outweigh the harm. So we have to really reflect upon how much time we're spending with them and why we're spending it with them and what's going to be the effect of spending this time with them. Because when you're in somebody's company for a long period of time, do you think that you escape being influenced by them? You don't. You don't escape. You're in somebody's company all the time. You cannot escape being influenced by them. And some people, they spend so much time with the non-believers that they start to adopt their thought. They start to adopt their manner of what? Speaking. Their manner of thinking. Their manner of reflecting on things. They start to adopt these things without even what? Realizing it. And what they consider to be what? Right and wrong, that moral code starts to what? It gets out of calibration, basically. It's not in line with what? Islam. It's more in line with what?
It's the Sharia. It's the Sharia.
To the point that the person will be more concerned with their pleasure than the pleasure of Allah. And they're not able to do religious things. And the reason why they can't bring themselves to do X, Y, and Z is because of what the non-believers will say. And what the non-believers will think and how this will affect them. They're so worried about their feelings and pleasing them that they can't bring themselves to please Allah. You'll actually hear a person say, I can't leave my non-Muslim friends because that will hurt their feelings. How would they feel? I can't. And when they ask you to do things which are against your religion, you'll feel shy to what? To tell them that, I can't do this because I'm a Muslim. So you feel like you have to what? Appease them. And you have to what? Make them feel comfortable at the expense of your own deen. The thing that's going to give you salvation. That's what the point it gets to. Which is why the Prophet ﷺ said the hadith. Al-mar'u ala dini khalili. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِفُ. A person will follow the faith of his close companion. So be careful with whom you associate. And wallahi, we see this, ya ikhwan. We see this, ya ikhwan, play out. And that's why we have to be careful with how much time we spend with the non-Muslims. You have to limit that. If it's necessary, it's necessary. It's we do what we have to do.
كحاجة المريض إلى الدواء.
Exactly. But when you get past that stage of the medicine that the sick person needs, they take medicine because what? They need the medicine. But when they feel good, do they take it? And if they take it and they're feeling good, what can happen? It can make them sick. So that's what I wanted to mention, or to add to that list. I do want to say, if I go too fast and you're not able to take notes, tell me. I can repeat 10 times. But I don't want our sittings to be entertainment. I want you to learn. I want you to benefit. And I can repeat 100 times and we can do just a paragraph, a night. But what I don't want is if you come next week and I ask you about something we covered and we spend a lot of time on it and you don't know the answer, you don't have a clue. It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts. Don't hurt me. طيب yes, تفضل يا شيخ.
If I may say,
ask
you a favor, please.
تفضل.
If you can write these points, just headlines. 7 now, right? Because you added one today.
Okay.
Just write like a sentence for each one of them, and we'll make copies and memorize it. So next time we will not hurt your feelings.
Okay, Allah Zakhir, I appreciate that. But I'm be honest with you. I could do that. I could do that. I can try to do that. I can't guarantee I'll be able to do it. I can try to do it. But I'll be honest with you.
We have lots of deficiencies. We're not Tulab Alim.
I agree with you. I agree. And we're trying. Wallahi, I'm trying. Qadr al-istifa'a to bring it down to the level of the audience. And I know that was an error that I made.
No, I'm not saying.
No, I'm admitting it. You don't have to say it. I'm admitting it.
I didn't even insinuate it.
You didn't insinuate. I'm admitting it. When we started with Kitab al-Tawheed, it was too much. And my approach was too much. My approach was the approach that we used in school. So I recognized it, and we shifted gears. And the book that we're using, I think, is totally suitable. I think even the approach is suitable. It's much more basic, but we're not the love him. I agree with you. At the same time, we have to we have to put a little bit more effort. And if we can't be shy. There's no shyness in knowledge. So if I'm going too fast, somebody should just tell me it's too fast. And the good thing about taking notes, and I notice the sisters always take notes. They always have pen and paper, and I always turn to them when I ask the questions because they're taking the notes. So I'm expecting that they'll have the answers. But there's two things. One, note-taking is good because it helps you remember. But if you write notes on Monday, and you take the notebook home, and you close it, and you sit on the dresser, or on the desk, or in the closet, and you don't take it out again until the next Monday, then, there's no... So I'm just asking, humbly requesting, take notes as we go, and ask me questions as we go. If I'm going too fast, I'll stop, I'll repeat 10 times, 20 times, whatever. And then during the week, just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just read through what you wrote. Just read through what you wrote, 5 or 10 minutes every day, and wallahi, you'll see a world of difference. It'll be like night and day when you come. Okay? And another thing I try to do is I try to compartmentalize everything. I give a heading for everything. And then I give heading, and then what? 6 points. Heading, 2 points. Heading. So you're following and you're taking notes, whether in your mind or actually on paper. Heading, points. Heading, points. When I come and ask the questions, you go right to that heading. He asked about the rules that govern our interactions. You go right to that heading. And you have all the points right there. But that's another thing, too, is when you take notes, you have to take notes in a way that you're going to be able to benefit from them in the future. If you just listen and write, and you don't organize your notes in a way that you can refer back to them, it's just a bunch of words on paper. So that's another thing to think about, too. So I'm not saying I don't have to meet you halfway, but I'm saying don't make me come all the way. What do you think, Jihad?
I still say I humbly request this because I feel this is just like a manual of living in this country.
صح.
A life manual. I've been here for 36 years almost. I'm old, but it was never put in like a manual for me. It's just like Usus al-Islam, al-Iman. This is almost like it. So if you can help us. And again, my excuse, we are not طلاب علم. Your methodology is perfect. Your lecture is perfect. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and benefit us from you. But my excuse for me alone, I'm not a طالب علم. First of all, I forgot to bring my book, my pen, because that mentality of طالب العلم is not in my head. The second thing, I forgot. So if it was put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 headlines, they will stick in my mind. Just like شهادة لا إله إلا الله ومحمد رسول الله والصيام والصلاة والصيام والزكاة. See, these are headlines. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for me. الإيمان بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله والقدر خيره وشره. Then these are the headlines. I will not forget them. To me. This is the second time I come this week, or last week. This is just like a manual for me how to live in America. So it's very important. I'm not asking you to write everything on your lecture, but when it comes to a manual like this, I think we need. That's why I said I'm not insinuating anything. I humbly request, and I have utmost respect for you and your lecture.
Allah is
me personally, I cannot talk about it, but we really need these written in your wording. Because if we all right now, when you look at us, each one of us is going to word it differently. I can assure you that. Each one of us will word it differently. But if we memorize it in your wording, and we'll stick to our minds, all of us the same. Inshallah. It's just a request.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Duly noted. Fadli.
I'm sorry. I just kept one thing in mind and I forgot all other bullet points. I just remember you saying not to take them as friends. You stress on the friend situation. And I just kept that in mind, and the rest I just like.
I mean, alhamdulillah, we're all human. Yeah, what? It's not. I don't want you guys to misunderstand me. I'm just encouraging. That's all. Just encouraging you guys. And if I go too fast, which might happen, or you miss a point, I'll repeat it. Wallahi, I'll repeat it. Nobody should be shy. Everybody should see by now I'm very approachable. You can ask me anything. You can stop me mid-sentence. You know, it's not an issue. But I just want you guys to benefit. That's the whole reason why we're doing this. It's not for entertainment. It's not for show. I just want you guys to benefit. And the way we're going to benefit is, you know, by doing some of those things that we mentioned. That's all. So we work together. We'll get some benefit. I want the day to come where I'm sitting out there and you're sitting up here. But, you know, that day's going to come through what? Through ijtihad. You know, we have to make some effort and exert some effort. And if we do that, I think that's going to happen. But let's go to the next chapter, next section. And that starts on page 21. Page 21. And that's the Arkan al-Iman, the pillars of faith. Page 21. So we'll start looking at that. And as always, we start with the objectives. So I'll give you the objectives for this section, the pillars of faith. I'll give you those first, and then we'll go from there. So the first objective, and what we mean by objective is what we should be able to do when we finish this chapter. And this also will help you. I always give you guys the objectives of each chapter, and you can go back to that and say, start checking it off. Am I able to do this? Am I able to do this? And that lets you know also where you need to what? Brush up from your notes. So can I do this one without looking at my notes? No. Let me go and brush up on the notes. Come back. Can I do it? Okay, check off. Next one. That's another way that will help us make sure we're learning. So the first one is that we'll be able to list the 6 pillars which form the basis of the Muslim creed. List the 6 pillars which form the basis of the Muslim creed. That's the first objective. Number 2, clarify why these pillars form the basis and are not the sum total. They form the basis and they are not the sum total. Why? We'll be able to clarify that. Clarify why these pillars form the basis of this creed but are not the sum total of the creed. Clarify why. That's number 2. Number 3, list and clarify. List and clarify the 2 principles that should guide the study of the Muslim creed. List and clarify the 2 principles that should guide the study of the Muslim creed. That's number 3. Number 4, list the 4 essential components. List the 4 essential components of the belief in Allah. The 4 essential components of the belief in Allah. And explain what is intended by each. And explain what is intended by each. And explain what is intended by each. Number 5. Number 5. Distinguish between the 2. تفضل يا أختي.
What's number 4?
Number 4, we said, list the 4 essential components. List the 4 essential components of the belief in Allah. And explain what is intended by each.
Essential what?
Essential components Essential component.
Parts.
Parts. Let's simplify it. You're right. Parts. All right. Number 5. Distinguish between the two meanings of Islam. Distinguish between the two meanings of Islam. We'll stop with those. That's enough for today. All right, we got all those? Got those? No? What'd you miss? The third one, number 3. List and clarify the 2 principles that should guide the study of the Muslim creed.
Go back to number 2.
Number 2. Clarify why these pillars form the basis rather than the sum total. They form the basis, but they're not what? The sum total. Why is that the case? تفضلي يا أختي. Distinguish
between the 2
meanings of Islam. We'll stop with those. We have a couple more, but we'll take those next week. All right, shall we go for it? For a few minutes? All right, so on page 21, the compilers, they say, the Muslim creed is based upon the following 6 pillars. So notice, they say, based upon. Based upon the following 6 pillars. And they don't say confined to. They say based upon instead of confined to. Why is that? Because Islam is not confined to the 6 pillars. And the creed is not confined to the 6 pillars. But rather the creed is everything that the Prophet ﷺ came with. Everything he came with is what? The creed. Everything he taught us to what? Believe is the creed. And there are some things which we have to believe in as Muslims which are not included in what? In the 6 articles of faith. So for example, last week and the week before, we talked about a very important topic, a very important aspect of the creed, which is what? Al-wala wa al-bara. And al-wala wal-bara is a very, very important, essential part of the creed, but it's not included in what? The 6 articles. Muslims, they also have to believe in paradise and hellfire. And that they exist right now and have an effect on this world. They actually have an effect on this world. And that's not listed where? In the 6 articles of faith. They also have certain beliefs about the Muslim ruler. The rights of the Muslim ruler. How he's supposed to be treated, dealt with, interacted with. They have specific beliefs that they are supposed to believe in. And those beliefs are supposed to govern their behavior when they deal with the Muslim ruler. And that's not listed in where? The 6 articles of faith. Also, the Muslims have a certain way that they're supposed to believe in the Prophet's companions. That the Prophet's companions, we're supposed to believe certain things about them. We have to believe that that's part of our creed. And that's not mentioned where? In the 6 articles of faith. So basically the 6 articles are the 6 articles of faith, the arkan of Iman, because they are the most essential, the most fundamental beliefs, but they're not the only beliefs. And no one should think that their belief or their faith or their creed begins and ends with the 6 articles of faith. But rather our creed begins and ends with everything that the Prophet came with, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, everything that he brought and taught. But these 6 are the essence of faith.
Would you consider
The crux.
them the foundations?
Yeah, the foundation,
And then they've
the
been
essence,
built upon
the crux,
everything else that
all of
was
those
brought
things.
to us.
But they're not the sum total. That's what we need to understand. They're not the sum total. That's why they say based upon, not limited to, confined to. Then after they say that, they say 6 pillars. 6 pillars. And they base these 6 pillars, and they mention them: belief in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, the last day and the divine decree, the good of it and the bad of it. they base this on the hadith collected by Bukhari, in which the hadith of Umar, if I'm not mistaken, in which someone came who was different, recognizably didn't belong. And what made him stick out is that the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, they basically lived in the desert. And they live in a very close-knit community. So if anybody comes to their city, if they're from Al-Madinah, they know them. And if they're not from Al-Madinah, they know that they're not from Al-Madinah because they don't recognize them, but also they will appear as if they traveled. Right? So that's automatically how they can pick out someone who's, for example, coming from Al-Badw, coming from what? The outlying areas, coming from what? The desert. They know because how he looks, how he's dressed, how his hair is disheveled, how he has what? Dirty clothes from all the dust, right? But someone came, and he was shadidu bayad athiyab. His clothes were what? Extremely white to the point that what?
Shiny.
It was blinding from how bright white his clothes were. Was shadidu sawad sha'r. And his hair was extremely what? Black, jet black. It wasn't dusty. Right? And nobody from among us knew him. So he had the appearance of someone who was a resident of Al-Madinah, but nobody knew him. Then to even make the situation even more curious, he came and he sat right in front of the Prophet, to the point that his knees touched the Prophet's knees. And he put his hands on what?
His knees.
On the Prophet's thighs. Okay? So now this is what? It's making everybody feel a little uneasy. Then he said, Ya Muhammad, which is also a what? It's a no-no. It's a no-no. You don't call the Prophet by his what? First name. It's disrespectful. So this makes everybody what? Focus in. That was the wisdom of why he came the way he came and did what he did. Because now everybody's going to pay attention to what's going to happen next. Right? And when he did that, he asked the Prophet about Islam, about Iman, about Ihsan, and about the Day of Judgment, when will it be, and about its signs. Right? And this is the famous hadith of Mikael. Jibreel, mashallah. I just want to see you guys are awake. It's the famous hadith of what? Jibreel. In which the Prophet said at the end of the hadith, he said, do you know who this was? Umar?
Is it surprised that every answer he said yes?
Exactly. They were all surprised by that. He did all this to what? To make them pay attention. And at the end, he told Umar, he said, هَذَا جِبْرِيلَ أَتَاكُمْ يُعَلِّمُكُمْ دِينَكُمْ. He said, this is Jibreel. He came to teach you what? Your religion. When he asked the Prophet about faith, what is faith? The Prophet said, أَن تُؤْمِنَ بِاللَّهِ وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَكُتُبِهِ وَرُسُلِهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَالْقَدْرِ خَيْرِهِ وَشَرِّهِ. So he told him, it said, it's basically 6 things. Belief in Allah, belief in His angels, belief in His scriptures, belief in the messengers, belief in the last day, and belief in divine decree, the sweet of it and the bitter of it. So these are the 6 pillars, and this is the proof that there's 6, is the hadith of Jibreel. Fine. Then after that, they give those, that he lists them, and he talks about the hadith a little bit. Then he says, in the second paragraph, he says, Islam requires that one wholly submits himself to Allah's all-encompassing will, realizing that he will only succeed in this life and the hereafter through practicing the code of life which Allah Himself has prescribed. The religion of Islam is embodied in the Quran and the genuine teachings of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and is best explained by his companions. We shall look at these pillars in detail. Now here in this paragraph, they give us 2 guiding principles for the study of creed. In this paragraph, the compilers give us 2 guiding principles for the study of creed?
3.
Ahsant. Now I don't mention that. I use that separately, Sheikh. But I like your diqqa. You're right. It's actually, they mention 3 things, but 2 guiding principles, and then the third thing, we're going to mention it separately. Okay? So the 2 guiding principles, the first one comes in the words, Islam requires that one wholly submits himself to Allah's all-encompassing will, realizing that he will only succeed in this life and the hereafter through practicing the code of life which Allah Himself has prescribed. So the first guiding principle for our study of creed. Now remember, I gave you guys that objective, right? That second objective or the third objective was to list and clarify the 2 principles that guide our study of creed. So the first principle from those 2 principles is humble submission to and acceptance of Allah's what? His guidance. We have to embrace Allah's guidance in this matter, what? Fully, wholly, without any hesitation. And the reason for this, or let me explain this further. So what does this mean? This means that we have to willfully adopt the creed endorsed by Allah. There's a creed that comes from Allah, taught to us in the sources of Islam that we talked about previously. We have to do what?
Completely submit.
Completely embrace that creed. And what we can't do is innovate our own creed. We can't innovate our own creed. Yeah, that creed is good, but what? I have some better ideas. So we do what? Innovate our own creed. Or another thing we can't do is what? Follow the creed of someone else, which is invented. It's their own invention. We can't do those things. We have to wholly submit to what? Allah's creed. The creed that He gave us. Also, we can't do what? We can't reject the creed in its entirety, or what? Reject parts of it. Because it doesn't what? We have difficulty comprehending it. So we say, this, it doesn't make sense to me. I can't fathom it, so therefore it's wrong. No, we have to wholly what? Submit to it, realizing that what? Our ability to comprehend is limited. And no one knows Allah and His religion better than Him. And especially not us with our limited human faculties. So we have no choice but to what? Submit. And I want to give you an example, an analogy, so you can see why this makes sense. Imagine that you had a pen pal in another part of the world. In China, let's say. Thank you for that, China. I appreciate that. So another part of the world, China. You have a pen pal. You guys know what a pen pal is, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody that you send letters to, and they send you letters. Probably nowadays.
This is old-fashioned.
Yeah, old-fashioned. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm showing my age. I'm showing my age. Okay,
fake book.
All right, so we have Facebook.
Fake
book. Okay, Facebook. Let's not do fake book. Let's do email. You do email. Let's have an email pal, let's say, okay? Mm-hmm. So they're in China, you're in America, and you send emails back and forth, okay? And so they say, okay, tell me about yourself, okay? So you say, okay, I'm tall, I'm thin, I have long wavy hair, okay? I have fair skin, I have
blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. I have dark eyes, whatever it is. So you tell them your qualities, right? You tell them about you. And then they write back and say, no, you're not tall. You're short. You don't have dark eyes, you have light eyes. You're not thin, you're what? Plump, right? And they start telling you that all the things that you said about yourself are wrong. What would you say? You'd be like, okay, wait. You've never seen me before in your life. You don't know anything about me except what? I tell you, how can you tell me that I'm wrong in my description of myself? All of us would say that's what? Ridiculous. How much more so is it ridiculous for what? For human beings to question what? Allah. How much it's ridiculous. If it's ridiculous for us to question each other, it's even more ridiculous to question who? Allah. So we have to accept. Just like when you have that pen pal, you have to do what? Accept. You say you're tall until I see what? Until I see otherwise. Like, so that's the first guiding principle for our study of the creed. Is that we have to what? We have to wholly submit and accept and embrace what Allah what? What Allah taught, the creed that He sent to us and gave us. And we can't create our own creed or reject His creed because it doesn't what we are, or it doesn't compute. We're not even comprehend it. But the second guiding principle comes when it says the religion of Islam is embodied in the Quran and the genuine teachings of Muhammad and is best explained by his companions. Underline that. Best explained by his companions. That's the other guiding principle. That basically when you study creed, especially when you study creed, you expand your study of creed. You're going to come across a lot of what? A lot of different understandings. A lot of different theologies. Right? You're going to come across those. And when you come across those, the question that comes to your mind, and comes to most Muslims' minds, how do we what? Distinguish. How do we differentiate truth from falsehood? Especially since all these people who propagate and promote these creeds, they all say we base it on Quran and Sunnah. They all say we follow Quran and Sunnah. They're all quoting ayat and hadith to support their beliefs. So what's going to distinguish between their interpretation, or the right interpretation, and the wrong one? It's going to be what? The companions. Why? Because they witnessed the revelation. They understood it better than anyone else. And Allah endorsed their understanding and didn't endorse the understanding of others. So one can be 100% sure, if he believes the way they believe and follows the religion the way they follow it, then he'll be guided. In fact, Allah says so. فَإِنْ آمَنُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا. Allah addresses the Prophet and his companions, and He says, if they, the people who come after you, if they believe the way you believe, then they'll be guided. The scholars of Islam, they said the opposite meaning is also intended. If they don't believe the way you believe, they'll be what? They'll be astray. They'll be astray. All right, now, this is the Sheikh's point now. So he said, that's another thing that's important here. In that same second part, it says the religion of Islam is embodied in the Quran, the genuine teachings of Muhammad. Genuine. Underline the word genuine. Because only genuine reports are part of the what? Of the Sharia. Only genuine reports are part of what? Islam. And only the genuine reports are legitimate sources for what? Creed. And those ingenuine reports, those unauthentic reports, are not legally acceptable and can be used as what? An evidence. And are often the basis for what? For deviant creeds. So when people deviate in creed, and you ask them, where did you get this from? They'll often quote a weak hadith. They'll often quote a weak hadith to support what? Their deviant beliefs. Let's do one more thing, and then we're going to close out. We'll take a few questions. Tafadali.
Is that the answer to number 3?
Yeah, number 3, we said the 2 guiding principles. So what was the first guiding principle? So make that a heading. 2 guiding principles for the study of creed. Make that a heading. What was the first one?
Humble submission.
Holy, humble submission to what? To Allah's creed. To Allah's creed. Second one? Best interpreted by the companions. That's who we turn to determine what's truth from what? Falsehood. Their understanding is what? The correct understanding in these matters. They're going to be the final judge and have the final say. Let's do this really quickly. Let's do the 4th objective, which was the components, right? The 4 essential components. Is that right? Let's do that really quickly and we'll close. So the 4 necessary components of belief in Allah. What are the 4 necessary components? Belief in Allah.
And nothing is worthy of worship but Allah.
Yes, sahih. There's no question about that. But the 4 things we have to believe in. When we talk about we believe in Allah, we have to believe in 4 things. The first one, we have to believe in His His existence. No, the angels are separate. Something separate we have to believe in. So when we believe in Allah, the first thing we have to believe in, we have to believe in His existence. Wujudi. Okay, al-imanu bi wujudi. Okay, we have to believe in His existence. Believe that He exists. And the proof that He exists is what? Al-alam. The world around us is the greatest proof that He, what? Exists. You meet a man, he says, I'm an atheist. Now, I don't believe in anything I can't see. If I can't see, it doesn't exist. So you say, have you ever seen your brain?
No.
He says, no. He has to admit, he's never seen it. Do you have a brain?
No.
He says, yeah. Sure, you better believe it. He believes he has a brain, right? So then you say, okay, well, what's your proof? He says what?
Because you're thinking.
I think. I stand up. I get down. I write, very intelligent research papers, right? I have my own master's thesis. I've actually authored a book. He starts talking about what? The practical things that he's done that show that he must have what? Intellect to generate these what? These intellectual productions, right? To do things that require intelligence, right?
Right.
So you say, let's make an analogy then. Okay? That you have what? This creation which is so intricate. It's so harmonious. Perfect accord. Everything is just perfect symmetry. So you have people who breathe oxygen. They breathe oxygen. They give off, they exhale carbon dioxide. So they're going to need something that produces oxygen. But that same thing that produces oxygen or something else is going to have to breathe carbon dioxide. Or the world's going to fill with something that will do what? Kill them. Poison. So they have what? Trees. And the trees can't survive without carbon dioxide. And when they breathe in carbon dioxide, they give off oxygen. Come on. That shows that what? There's a wise creator behind this. That just can't happen. But things like that don't happen by accident.
Mother Nature.
You see that? And so the world around us, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran itself, He tells us to do what? Ponder the creation around us. Just ponder. If you want to know faith, you want to know God, you want to know the existence, be certain of it, just what? Look around you. So toward the end of Surah Al-Imran, what does He say? إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about these people, and one thing He says about them, these righteous people, these good people, is that they contemplate what? The khalq, the creation of the heavens and the earth. And then He tells us the natija. What's the result when they do that? رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. That as a result of them looking at this creation, they know for certain that there's what? A Lord. And He didn't create this for a foolish or a trifling purpose. There must be heaven and hell. There must be a day of judgment. فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. That what's going to make you faithful and have firm belief is just what? Look around you. All the signs are there. All the ayat are there for you what? To see. So you don't need someone to tell you yay or nay. It doesn't require a great deal of thought. Just what? Look around you. And that's why it just so happened, that an atheist confronted a Bedouin, Muslim, believer in Allah. You know Bedouins. They're not knowledgeable. They're not intelligent. They're illiterate. They believe from what? From fitrah.
Yeah.
From their nature. It's just intrinsic that they believe.
Yeah.
Right? So this atheist is thinking, oh, this is easy prey. Easy prey. I'm going to twist him up like a pretzel. So he comes to the Bedouin and he says, كيف عرفت ربك? How do you know your Lord? How do you know that God really exists? Huh? So you know what the Bedouin said? He says, oh, that's the easiest question I've ever been asked. He said, al-ba'ratu tadullu al-ba'ir. He said, camel droppings point to what? The existence of the camel. If I see camel droppings, I don't see the camel, but I see the droppings, I know what? There was a camel. Wal-athra tadullu al-masir. And when you see these little footprints in the sand, you know that somebody what? Walked that path, even though you didn't see them. فَسَمَاءُ ذَاتَ أَبْرَاجٍ. So a heaven with these what? Lamps, constellations, and stars. وَبِحَارٌ ذَاتُ أَمْوَاجٍ. And an ocean with these what? Waves that carry ships from one shore to another shore. وَأَرْضٌ ذَاتُ فِجَاجٍ. And an earth like this with these what? These passageways and valleys for people to what? To move about, right? And set up shop and settle. أَلَا تَدُلُّ عَلَى السَّمِيعِ الْبَصِيرِ. Do they not point to what? The existence of what? The all-hearing, the all-seeing. This is all the evidence I need, the creation around. Then ثم بعد ذلك, the second thing, or the second component, تفضل يا شيخ, تفضل. His power, belief in his power, not bad, okay? Belief in his power would fall in the third one, maybe I'd say. All right, it's going to fall in the third one. So keep hold of that. So the second one is al-imanu bi rububiyyati, belief in his lordship. Belief in his lordship. And what we mean by lordship is those actions which are specific to him that only he can do and no one else can do. There are certain things that Allah does that no one else can do, like al-khalq min adam, like creating something from nothing. Right? Like making the sun rise and set, making the rain fall, making a woman's womb fertile so that she can bear children. These are things that only he can what? To give life and cause death. So these are all included what in his rububiyyah, in his lordship. Actions that he does that no one else can do. We have to believe what? Believe in that. Number 3, belief in his names by which he is called, and his attributes by which he is described. The names by which he's called, and the attributes by which he's described. Attributes like what? Like power, right? As the young man mentions here. Actions like power. So belief in his names by which he's called, and attributes by which he is described. Asma'ihi wa sifati. And the last one, belief in his right to be worshipped alone without any partners. Uluhiyatihi. Belief in his right to be worshipped alone without any partners. And when we come back next week and we start the section of belief in Allah, each section is going to deal with one of those what? With one of those last 3. Lordship, names and attributes, and his right to be worshipped alone. Then there's going to be some specific sections dealing with specific aspects of those beliefs. For example, the Quran being the speech of Allah, Allah's will, and some of the qualities which people might question and not understand clearly that need to be what? Clarified. So that's what we're going to do when we meet, inshallah ta'ala, next week. First component is belief in Allah's existence. Second one is lordship. Third one is names and attributes. And last one is belief in his right to be worshipped alone. So those are the 4. Do I need to repeat those again? Or do we have those? So if I come next week and I say, what are the 2 principles that guide our study of the creed? And I say, what are the 4 components of belief in Allah? And I get those blank stares like I got today. I'm leaving. I'm walking out.
I'll be the second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? I'll mention that we started last Sunday. Not yesterday, but the one before that. We started doing like a little short talks, shot in the arm talks after Fajr. And we're inviting everyone to attend those.
You mean Sunday?
Did I say Saturday or Sunday? I meant Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. So Sunday mornings, we do like a little shot in the arm talk after Fajr. And so we invite you all to come out for that. This Sunday we won't have one because I'll be out of town for 2 days. But next Sunday we'll resume. And I'll be here for Monday, obviously, inshallah. That will not be affected. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Tafadhal, Sheikh.
Before 2 weeks, I was asked by a Christian. He asked me, where is Allah? Is he in the sky or in the earth? And how can you go there?
Is he in the sky?
Or in the earth?
Well, if you're dealing with a Christian who doesn't accept the Quran, then you're probably going to use a logical argument. Okay? And one of the logical arguments that we use is that whenever we describe Allah, we have to describe Him with the quality which is most befitting and respectful. And so you ask the Christian, what's more respectful? To be above or to be below? To be on the top or to be on the bottom? Right? To be in the penthouse or to be in the basement? You ask him. He's going to say to be in the penthouse. And you say, so we describe Allah with what? With the best quality. That He's what? Above us. Yeah, He's above us. So that's one logical argument that you can give. The other logical argument that the scholars used to give throughout history to refute the people who always they would argue with you with rational arguments. They would argue with you and twist the Quran and say, they would say, for example, قَطْعِ الثُّبُوتِ ظَنِّ الدِّلَالَةِ. Same thing with the hadith. ظَنِّ الثُّبُوتِ ظَنِّ الدِّلَالَةِ. They would argue back and forth about that. So what the scholars would do is say, look, let's just cut all this out. When you make dua, where does your heart go? They would just say that. When you make dua, where does your heart go? And wallahi, when you raise your hands to make dua, your heart goes what? It goes up. Yeah. Anybody who's honest to himself, his heart naturally does what? It gravitates to what? Al-ulu. That as if intrinsically you know that what? The one you're calling on is what? Is above you. Is above you. Also in their scripture, you could use their scripture. Our God, for example, they have a dua, they say, our God who art in heaven. In heaven. They themselves, as part of their what? Belief. To the point Ibn Taymiyyah said that the fact that Allah is above His creatures is agreed upon, not by just the Muslims, but by what? Al-Yahud, what? Wal-Nasara. Yeah. So even their own scripture, our God who art in heaven. Yeah.
أبانا الذي في السماوات تقدس اسمه أعطنا عيش يومنا رغيف العيش.
That's بالعربي, huh? ما شاء الله عليك, الله يجزاك خير.
الله سبحانه وتعالى في السماء فوق الجنة وفوق النار.
ما في السماء في معناها عن هنا.
على أو على
سدرة المنتهى.
لا أصلبنكم في جذوع النخل.
والله سبحانه وتعالى خلق الجنة وخلق النار. يعني مش قاعد فيها ولا حاجة.
No, we don't say He's above His creatures. Heaven and hell are creatures. He's above all His creatures.
يعني God is in heaven. It's not correct.
No, when they say in though, because you have to figure, when they say in, yeah, I understand. When they say in, it goes back to what? Translators. Fi, naturally, when we translate fi, we translate what? In. But what you have to realize, beyond being a translator, you have to realize that one, these huruf al-jar, their meaning changes with what? Context. These prepositions change with context. Also, you have to have some knowledge of what? You have to have some knowledge of the science that you're dealing with. And so when these translators came, and they translated the Bible into what? Into English, and they came across a word that could mean in, above, on, whatever, they translated it as what? In, and we take it literally in English as what? In the heavens, but in reality it's what? Above the heavens. Okay, so the best translation would be what? Above the heavens. But they translate it literally as what? As in. So the errors in translation, but we know what's meant by it. It means what?
Just trying to make sure.
Yeah, He's above us, right? Yeah. That's Fadli.
I have two questions. One is, I've had someone who doesn't have any religion at all because they feel like all religion is just something to use to control people.
Mm-hmm.
And their question was, if your God is so powerful, why are so many children and people just innocently being killed and slaughtered all over the world if we're not doing nothing?
Jamil.
Well, the only thing I could say is in the Quran, Allah says He uses one set of people to check another set of people.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there's something going on within that group of people that Allah has given them respite and they still continue to do it. That's the only answer I can come up with.
That's not a bad answer, but what I would say is this. If somebody denies God, okay? They deny God, and the people who deny God are on different levels.
No, they didn't deny Him. They just said, why? They just don't have a religion. And
well, yeah.
Why is He allowing all this to happen?
Exactly. So I don't believe in religion. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in faith. That's just something that people use to control people. They call it ifyun ashurub, right? The opium, the people's opium, basically. This is a drug that you use to what? To get the people, to control them, basically. They're so caught up in religion that they can't deal with their own affairs, government, and economics, etc., and you're able to what? To control them in that way. That's what they say. Al-Muhim, So it's just a different type of atheism. Because atheism has different forms and types. One of the types is this common one where the argument is, if there's a God, why does he let this happen? Why does he let that happen? So I deny God because what? Because of his actions. A person who does that, he just laid himself down to be slaughtered. To me. Why? Because the fact that he says, why does God let this happen, let that happen? It shows he believes in God. But he doesn't like God's what? Action. He doesn't like God's action. You believe in God. You just don't like what? God's actions. And that's from your own arrogance that you feel yourself in position to question what? His actions. Let's first agree that God what? Exists. And then we can talk about what? His actions. But don't tell me I don't believe in God because he does this and this and this. That basically you're what? Admitting that there's a God, but
you disapprove what
disapproving of his actions. You're admitting to God.
Exactly.
And that's our answer to that. That God isn't asked about what he does, but we're going to be what? Asked. We're going to be questioned. And it's just like one of us who has a broom. And this might be, to some people, a crude example. But it's like one of us has a broom. And he decides, it's a broom. It's a good broom. You can use it to sweep with it. You can use it to what? Knock down lint or cobwebs off of your ceiling fan. You can use it. It's useful. But you decide to what? Break it up and use it as what? Firewood. And somebody comes and they say, what are you doing? It's a good broom. You say, it's what? It's my broom. I can do with it as I please. We are Allah's broom. He owns us. He created us to do with us as he pleases. And he cannot, we're going to talk about this shortly, he can never be what? Unjust. And if he were to put all of us in hell, he wouldn't have oppressed any of us. He wouldn't have oppressed any of us. So we have to understand this. And let's admit that he exists, and then we can what? We can answer your disapproval of his actions. You got it? But let's admit, first of all, he exists. And you don't believe he doesn't exist because you're already what? Past that. You're saying what? Well, if there is a God, why does he do this and this and this and this? Yeah.
I have a question for you. When you start reading some of the books, like the scholarly books, why do they all start to sound the same? It doesn't matter if it's Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. When they start talking about the absolute and the one. Depending on what series of books you pick up.
You say they all start to sound the same?
They all start to sound similar. Depending on how far up the chain you go.
Give me a specific example of a similarity.
I don't know. I think I got it off the, what was the World Wisdom Series one with like Friedrich Schern. When he was talking about Christianity and Islam and Judaism. It sounded just, when he was talking about all three of them in one book.
And so when he talked about them all the same.
Yeah, he was talking.
Well, that's probably his perspective. That's his perspective, and he wants to promote that perspective, and that's why he makes it sound like they're all in agreement. And that's probably what he wants to promote. But I think if you read from Muslim scholars, and you read from Christian scholars, and you read from Jewish scholars about the concept of God in Judaism, the concept of God in Christianity, the concept of God in Islam, there should be a marked difference between the three. There should be. But if one person writes a book and his perspective is that they all are saying the same thing, then obviously from that subjective perspective he's going to what? Right. And so when there are things which kind of contradict his theory, he'll omit those. And everything which is consistent with his theory, he'll include it. When you read the book, it appears like, man, they're all saying the same thing. Only because he included that which is supporting that theory that he has. Yeah. Like, anything else, Sheikh?
Just the last thing. Can I get the phone number to the head chaplain down there at the women's prison? Because I've left several.
Chaplain at the women?
Yes, because I've left messages for the Muslim chaplain like 10 times and I've never gotten a call back. So
messages for the Muslim chaplain. You left a message with who?
It's me.
With the lady at, and that's strange. Yeah, I usually
like
get
10 messages.
That guy, he usually gets his messages. Yeah, he gets his messages pretty regularly.
The Muslim chaplain.
The Muslim chaplain. Now, he's on the road a lot. He's on the road a lot. I will say. So we have to make excuses for him. But when he comes back to the office, he gets those messages.
So
usually via email. He gets an email that says the person who called, the time they called, their phone number to be contacted.
Yeah, but she said a woman Muslim chaplain.
Yeah, I don't know
she's
any
a secretary.
woman Muslim chaplain.
I didn't ask for a woman Muslim chaplain. I'm asking for the name of the head chaplain of the women's prison.
Now, there's 3 women's prisons. Which one do you?
Okay, this is
and that's
can be after because we need.
Allah Zakir, you're right.
If you don't mind.
Totally fair. Yeah, totally.
We
fair.
give you 10 minutes to discuss it with her after the class.
Jimmy.
Anybody else?
That's why I said he leaves right after class.
So, any other questions? Tfadal, Sheikh. Tfadal.
I'll make sure that he stay here to answer you.
Tfadal, Sheikh.
I actually know a sister that actually goes to jail and teaches the people in jail.
Really? Really? MashaAllah, that's good. That's good. Jimmy, any other questions? Any other questions, comments, or concerns? So we'll stop there. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.